failed surgery, a successful surgery, and the beginning of chemotherapy, I just wasn't feeling very up. At the end of another terrible day, my husband would gently ask me to sit in the living room so that I could meditate and think positive thoughts. I was nauseated from the drugs, tired and terrified that I would leave my little boys without a mother. All I wanted to do was take my Ativan and sleep, but I couldn't do that. If I didn't change my attitude, I was going to die. So I'll skip a few things here, but basically, she went through some hell. So this idea of everyone telling her to be positive, this is spiritual bypassing in big time. So the book we were given several copies of, which was first published in 1986, which I'm going to say was kind of the highlight of this New Age thinking, which has been discredited many times since, has been reissued several times since, and it's titled Love, Medicine, and Miracles. It was written by a pediatric surgeon named Bernie Siegel. He seemed less interested in exceptional scientific advances than in exceptional patients. To be exceptional, you have to tell your body that you want to live. You have to say no way to any doctor who says that you have a fatal illness. You have to become a channel of perfect self-love. And remember that the simple truth is happy people generally don't get sick. Old angers or disappointments can congeal into cancer. You need to get rid of those emotions or they will kill you. This is really pretty cruel stuff, actually. In 1989, a Stanford psychiatrist named David Spiegel published a study of women with metastatic breast cancer. He created a support group for half the women whom he taught self-hypnosis. The other women got no social support. The results were remarkable. Spiegel reported that the women in the group survived twice as long as the other women. This study was hugely influential in modern beliefs about meditation and cancer survival. It showed up in books my husband read to me, and which were filled with other stories of miraculous healings, of patients defying the odds through their own emotional work. But I was so far behind. From the beginning, I couldn't stop crying. I began to think I was hopeless and would never survive. So we can kind of parallel that if we want to Kyogen saying, in this body, in this lifetime, I'll never reach liberation. So when your life falls apart like this, it gives you a big push to see that things are not as stable and you're not as solid. Your identity is blown up. Your identity is not as fixed and solid as you might think it is. So there's this natural thing of, we want to reach some kind of hope. So these people are providing hope. And there is this wonderful tendency. We want to be good. We want to be positive. We want to be our best selves. But we can't get there by skipping the board game and jumping to the end. You can't. Like I did with this book, I jumped to the last chapter. You can't do that in life. You can do it with a book. I needed help, and I remembered a woman my husband and I had talked to in the first week of my diagnosis. Both of us had found in those conversations our only experience of calm, our only a reassurance that we were doing the right things. Ann Coscolari is a clinical psychologist and the founder of SIMS-MAN, UCLA Center for Integrative Oncology, which helps patients and their families cope with the trauma of cancer. We had reached out to her when we were trying to understand my diagnosis. Now I needed her for much more. For the first half hour in her office, we just talked about how sick I felt and how frightened I was. Then nervously, I confessed, I wasn't doing the work of healing myself. I wasn't being positive. Why do you need to be positive? She asked in a neutral voice. I thought it should be obvious, but I explained because I didn't want to die. Coscarelli remained just as neutral and said, there isn't a single bit of evidence that having a positive attitude helps heal cancer. What? That couldn't possibly be right. How did she know that? They study it all the time, she said. It's just not true. David Spiegel was never able to replicate his findings about metastatic breast cancer. The American Cancer Society and the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health said that there's no evidence that meditation or support groups increase survival rate. They can do all sorts of wonderful things like reducing stress and allowing you to live in the moment instead of worrying about the next scan. I've learned whenever I start to get scared to do some yoga type breathing with my eyes closed until I get bored. If I'm bored, I'm not scared. So then I open my eyes again. But I'm not alive today because of deep breathing. When I began to understand that attitude doesn't have anything to do with survival, I felt myself coming out of deep water. I didn't cause my cancer by having a bad attitude, and I wasn't doing to cure it by having a good one. And then Coscarelli told me the whole truth about cancer. If you're ready, I will tell it to you. Cancer occurs when a group of cells divide in rapid and abnormal ways. Treatments are successful if they interfere with that process. That's it. That's the whole equation. Everyone with cancer has a different experience and different beliefs about what will help. I feel strongly that these beliefs should be respected, including the feelings of those who decide not to have any treatment at all. It's sadism to learn that someone is dangerously ill and to impose upon them your own set of unproven assumptions, especially ones that blame the patient for getting sick in the first place. That meeting with Ann Coscarelli took place 18 years ago, and never once since then have I worried that my attitude was going to kill me. I've had several recurrences, all of them significant, but I'm still here typing and drinking a Coke and not feeling super upbeat. Before I left that meeting, I asked her one last question. Maybe I couldn't think my way out of cancer, but wasn't it still important to be as good a person as I could be? Wouldn't that karma improve my odds a little bit? Coscarelli told me that over the years, many wonderful and generous women had come to her clinic, and some of them had died very quickly. Yikes. I had to come clean. Not only was I unwonderful, I was also kind of a bitch. God love her, she came through with exactly what I needed to hear. I've seen some of the biggest bitches come in here, and they're still alive. And that, my friends, was when I had my first positive thought. I imagined all those bitches getting healthy, and I said to myself, I think I'm going to beat this thing. So this is dealing with truth. So when she admits that she's a bitch, the counselor says, yeah, so that's dealing with personality is the path. That's accepting who you are, not trying to impose some set of positive thinking. And the counselor did her job simply by telling her the truth. The truth is very stable. The truth, we can actually take solace in the truth. And once she admits and accepts that she's a bitch, and the counselor accepts that she's a bitch, there's not much point in being a bitch. There's no resistance. There's no push. There's no thing to push against. And then other things begin to come up. This is what I believe Radha Seki Roshi was saying when then completely understood what Isan had been talking about. Things as they are all right. You have to accept as you are all right. That's the starting point. And then to become one with conditions in this way is the most important point of Buddhist practice, because it opens things up. When she finally saw that she was a bitch and bitches had survived, she had her first positive thought. So that's my talk. I'm sorry if I went over. I really am inclined to want to say namaste, bitches, but that's kind of inappropriate, so I won't say that.
Thank you for the talk. This is great.
Welcome.
I'm Meredith Bodhisvaha. I was thinking when you're talking about all the neural networks and Indra's net, it's kind of like they're embedded within each other. It's like we're a neural network embedded within Indra's net, embedded within time, you know, all of our ancient twisted karma going back. It's like this like hyper dynamic, like interrelated processes with all these layers and dimensions to it. And kind of to your point, it's like, how could you ever pinpoint yourself in that? Like, it's impossible, really. It's just a total convention almost. But, you know, at the same time, we have that perception, you know, it's like it's like we can't fathom that almost. It's like easier to think of ourselves as like this concrete, very slowly changing thing that exists.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, I thought, you know, if something was stable and fixed in this kind of network, the whole thing would fall apart. The whole thing is that it's fluid and dynamic and changing all the time. But your point is, it's much easier and convenient for us to think about ourselves as stable, because it's a little too fluid.
It's hard to grasp. I mean, it's hard for us to like consciously grasp, like you can kind of intellectualize it, but it's hard to feel that deeply, for me anyway.
But you know, when crises happen, you get a sense of that. Things just fall apart. The solidity just disappears. The rug's pulled out from under you. It's like, whoa, I wasn't ready for this. But it's been there all the time. That stuff has been there all the time going on.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you so much. That was, wow. I mean, you really, you put together a lot in your Dharma talk. I really, really appreciate it. So many things came up for me. But one of the things toward, you know, that came up towards the last part of your talk with the Atlantic article was that, you know, people often, because of their own fear or distress or anxiety, will often just say cliches or platitudes to a friend or a loved one when they are sitting with that really difficult fact that, you know, that person has cancer or that person's going to die. And what happens is that sometimes the person with cancer, the person who's dying, has to comfort the person who's there visiting or talking to. It's because of that really difficult, rather than saying this is so difficult for me, admitting that when talking to your loved one who is really ill, we just want to say something to just calm the fears inside. So that's what I've observed. So the person that's ill is really the person who's comforting the other, by saying, it's okay. Thank you for just being here.
And that's kind of evidence of how permeable these boundaries we have are. It's like the roles just reverse in that case. When my wife was in the hospital, there was a wonderful, what do they call them? I can't remember, but the people who come for counseling or whatever, and he would come into the room. He was a great guy, and she would she would say, sit down, get in a chair, and he would say, I'm supposed to be the caretaker here. You're not. I'm supposed to be helping you. You're not supposed to be helping me. So this kind of role thing, we're just so inclined to work with fixed roles. And then, like you say, when people are put in these difficult situations, things get very fluid and can reverse at any time. So chaplain, that was the name. When the chaplain would come in the room, she would want to take care of the chaplain, and the chaplain would say, "Oh, I'm here to take care of you."
Any other comments? Kyoko, you have a comment? Or are you just saying hi?
I'm saying goodbye because we're about to start the Shuso ceremony for Genjo Conway. So I just really, really, really loved your talk. Thank you so much, Ryushin.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Let me see. I got my script here. I'm supposed to read all of this. Next week, the talk will be by Jushin Stephyn Butcher. He's talking about Zen Master Epictetus. Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay. That's a Zen master most of us have not being familiar with. So we'll look forward to that. Thanks so much. We've got a little thing in the chat box that's got a link to Dharma. If you want to help support Hokyoji financially, you can click on that little link in there and make a little donation. We appreciate that. That's how we survive. So I think we can close it out with the 4 vows. So, and then we'll ring it out. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. The Buddha way. Help me out, Jushin.
Dharma
One for
gates are
possible.
boundless.
Dharma gates are boundless.
I vow to enter them.
I vow to enter them. My mind is a blank this morning. So thanks again.